In this lesson, we will learn about built-in objects in JavaScript. In addition to console, there are other objects built into JavaScript. Down the line, you will build your own objects, but for now, these built-in objects are full of useful functionality. For example, if you wanted to perform more complex mathematical operations than arithmetic, JavaScript has the built-in math object. The great thing about objects is that they have methods. Let's call the random method from the built-in math object. And here is the example. So you have the math object, and then you have the random method of that math object. And this specific method creates a number, a random number between 0 and 1. In the example above, we called the random method by appending the object name with the dot operator, the name of the method, and opening and closing parentheses. So you have the object, then you have the method name appended to that object with the dot operator, and then you have the parentheses of that method. This method returns a random number between 0 and 1. To generate a random number between 0 and 50, we could multiply this result by 50, like so. So like in this example right here. The example above will likely evaluate to a decimal. To ensure the answer is a whole number, we can take advantage of another useful math method called mathFloor. So method is called floor. Math is just the object. mathFloor takes a decimal number and rounds down to the nearest whole number. You can use mathFloor to round down a random number like this. So let's go through the syntax here. So in this case, you have math object, then you have the floor method of that object, then you have the parentheses, and this method floor takes a decimal number, rounds down to the nearest whole number. Inside, we have a math random. So again, once again, we have a math object right here. Then we have a random method of that object, which generates a number between 0 and 1. And then we multiply that number by 50. So this evaluates in some decimal number. And then we take that decimal number and round that number down to the nearest whole number. So let's see. Math random generates a random number between 0 and 1. We then multiply that number by 50. So now we have a number between 0 and 50. Then mathFloor rounds the number down to the nearest whole number. If you wanted to see the number printed to the terminal, you would still need to use a console.log statement. And here is the same example, but with the console.log statement. So we are logging the result of this statement here to the console. To see all of the properties and methods on the math object, take a look at the documentation here, and I will leave you this link in the description of the video, so you can check the other properties and methods of the math object. And now let's see the instructions for the exercise. Inside of a console.log, create a random number with math random, then multiply it by 100. So first let's write console.log, then let's generate a random number with the math object and random method of that object, and then we multiply that number by 100. And now let's update the page, and we got the random number, the decimal number or floating number. Close the pop-up message. Now use mathFloor to make the output a whole number. Okay, And this is how we will do this. Inside the console.log, you wrote in the last step, put the existing math random multiplied by 100 code inside the parentheses of math floor. So you do like this. You call the floor method, and then you put that expression inside of that floor method, and let's update the code, and now we got the whole number. Find a method on the JavaScript math object that returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to a decimal number. Use this method with the number 43.8 and log the answer to the console. And let's see. So we should find a method on this page right here that returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to a decimal number. And let's scroll down. And here are the methods for the math object. And here is the method we should use. Returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to x. And we will use this number. And let's console.log. So we are using the ceil method. So math.ceil, and then 43.8. And now let's run our code. And I got error here, typing error. Let's run our code again. Yep. And here is the result. So 44. And now use the JavaScript documentation to find a method on the built-in number object that checks if a number is an integer. Put the number 2017 in the parentheses of the method and use console.log to print the result. So same thing, console.log. Now we are using the number object, and we should find the method we need for this task. So once again, on the left side you have all the number methods. And now let's see what we need. We need a method that checks if a number is an integer. Let's find that. And here is the method, is integer. Let's write the method. And we should use 2017. Run our code. And we got the result in the form of Boolean value, in this case true, because 2017 is integer number. Okay, that should be all for this exercise. Let's proceed to the next one.